I'll open up the January 17th DRB meeting to order. I don't know of any agenda changes.
Well, I just have to make one announcement after the minutes. I'd like to make just one announcement about an action of the select board.
Okay. All right, everybody can review the minutes. December 20th.
On the Hanlon sketch plan, the fourth paragraph, the last paragraph on the first page, second line, there's a flash well. It should be a shallow well.
Actually, I think what that flash was the person's name.
Yeah, Suki Flash was the holder of the water rights.
Right.
But
Actually,
but it's still a shallow well.
it is a shallow well, and it's actually utilized by someone else.
Not Suki Flash?
I actually met with the people who lives across the street.
Yeah,
His last name
Suki
is
used to
Lavalley.
own that. I don't know if she still does.
Well, they mentioned to me that they actually have use of that well, and Sherry Hanlon is aware of it, and she'll bring that back to the attention when she comes back for final.
Yeah, no, I thought we understood that at the last meeting. Move to approve as amended.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I'll just abstain as I was not here.
We don't need a quorum for minutes.
All right, Mitch.
Yeah, just
You're up.
I wanted to mention that last night, the select board provided a water and wastewater allocations to the, to Foam Brewery and and one of the other uses, an expansion of, I think it's Smoke and Cure. And they end up using 2,150 gallons per day of the allocation, and there is 2,850 gallons per day remaining. There is talk, these, I just want to mention also that these allocations are updated every June. There is reason to think that it may go up. There are some possibilities where it might not go up that much or it may stay the same. But just something to keep in mind going forward, that that's the new available allocation.
So the available allocation could go up?
It will probably, it could change.
Okay.
What I've heard is that there were some leaks that were an issue that once they were fixed, it actually increased the amount of water that was available. But a new process that they have to run the system actually uses a lot of water, and it may end up being a wash between those two. So, but there is a chance that it may change. But for right now, it's only 2,850 gallons per day going to the select board.
Well, what does the select board action last night mean in terms of how much water is available for competing applications or contemporaneous applications, or at least applications that are being heard around the same time without trying to assign priority to one or the other?
Well, it could have effect in terms of there's not a guarantee that water will be available for something more than that at this time.
Do we have to find that at site plan or sketch, or a sketch plan or preliminary plat?
I'm not sure. This was just, I found
I
out.
mean,
about
normally
this.
you went in to get allocation after sketch plan.
Some applications don't require a sketch, like the brewery.
As I understand, if you have an existing site plan, you're able to request that versus a sketch plan or a subdivision where you have to go through a bit of the process before it can be allocated, as I understand.
Was the select board aware that there were apparently competing demands for the available supply and they might be mutually exclusive?
I can't speak for the select board, I'm not sure.
So nobody...
I would think that they would, I would think that there may be knowledge of some applications, but I can't say for certain.
So we have two applications tonight which are competing for the available water. And it may be that we can't grant both because they're mutually exclusive. Is that kind of the long and the short of it?
I think there are options that you may have. You may want to see what happens as far as in June and how it actually changes.
Well, I mean, we're in January and, I mean, yeah, we can always continue things 6 months, but I'm sure that's not what either applicant wants.
I'm assuming based on what we just heard, that the site plan review wouldn't really be a question of it because it's already been allocated. So, the brewery one.
Yeah, the
Sorry,
brewery
I'm afraid we're
has-
getting ahead of things, but.
Right, they have been,
Well, we haven't had the brewery application, so it's...
Well, but
it's
we
the-
wouldn't if
Does the cheese factory have an allocation of water
yes,
that the brewery can tap into?
yes.
They needed the extra water for this permit. That's why they went back to the select board.
Right.
Go back to my issue, my discussion, is that I believe that.
All right, well, maybe we ought to open the first application, Mr. Chairman, and get all this on the record and sort it out as best we can.
All right,
I'll recuse myself.
Well, we don't have a quorum, if that's the
Well-
case.
I really shouldn't be.
Yeah, well, you know,
Unless you
John's in a tough
overrule.
spot. No,
he usually recuses
I know,
himself, so.
he really. And
mean, I
we're
have-
not expecting anybody else.
To this
Well,
point.
so the first one is for the cheese factory, right?
No,
The first
I
one
understand
is, you could change the order of it.
Okay.
And
Yeah, let's
somebody
do
could-
that. And do
Or
what
you
we can.
you could-
yeah, let's do that. We'll change it. So I do have an agenda change.
Yes.
All right. Are the people here from Catamount and Malone? All right, you can just
I hope.
come up front, state your name, and tell us what you're looking to do.
Ready to move?
Sure.
No, I think we're good.
Okay, let me just get. All right, go ahead. Good.
So my name is Larry Williams, I'm with Red Stones, and we're Catamount Malone Hinesburg, which is the owner of the cheese plant project. With me is Abby Derry with Trudell Consulting Engineers.
Can you try and keep your voice up, please?
Yes, so we are here requesting approval of occupancy of the 50, it's actually 5,200 square foot garage. It's a 3-bay garage between the restaurant and Vermont Smoke and Cure for occupancy by foam brewing.
Is that where the milk silos used to be?
Yes. Well, actually, I think the milk silos were technically between the garage and the building.
That general area.
Yeah, in that general area. Yeah, correct.
If you want, up on the screen, I have the site plan. And it's basically this area over here, as I understand, that you're looking to place the...
Correct. Yep, that's correct. So we have, we've applied for approval, and as a part of that approval and as a part of prior applications, it was left to be determined what would happen with the site in the area generally in front of this lease space. So our application proposed to occupy the space for the brewery to add a full island and a half an island to help delineate the quote-unquote entry road into the property, to add a sidewalk along the south side of the entry road, which is something we knew that staff and I think even the DRB had requested in the past, and to propose some additional landscaping. It's a part of this application. We had agreed to allocate the balance of our water and wastewater allocation that we had in hand for the property, for the project, which is, there's a little discrepancy between what we think we have and what the town thinks we have. We believe we have 330 gallons a day of remaining capacity. I think we saw some memos from the town that said 300, but I think if you go through the file, I think we can document that we have 330. But in addition to that, the Foam Brewers has requested an additional allocation of 1,850 gallons a day that they believe they will need to ramp up to full operation. And we made that application, both of those well, they requested 1,850, and then in addition, we requested another 400 gallons of capacity for a proposed expansion to the Vermont Smoke and Cure occupancy of the cheese plant. We did that, I think, a week or so ago, based on our understanding of the water allocation ordinance, which basically, I've got it right here, that basically says that we do that prior to a DRB request. It basically says all projects that require DRB review shall be allocated in accordance to the following. Preliminary allocation, which is I think what we received, is granted after DRB sketch plan approval for a subdivision project, and granted prior to DRB approval for all other projects, and that's us. So we believe we have done the allocation in the proper order, and that's why we're here tonight requesting this approval. In terms of the specific comments on the staff notes, the only thing that I'd like to respond to is that there was a request to add a second parking island, if I can point.
Actually, right by the hand.
Yeah. In front of the last set of parking spaces, and we deliberately left that island. We're not surprised that that request was made. We deliberately left that off because there are 3 overhead doors on the front of that building, and Foam, and these guys are here tonight if you have specific questions, is planning initially to use all 3 of those doors, and if we put an island there, it restricts our ability to get to those doors, even acknowledging that there is parking proposed in that area, so that if they wanted to get to those doors, they would have to manage the parking in front of those doors while they get their trucks maneuvered. But our proposal was to not do an island there. It still is to not do an island there, and I just want to call that out. There were a couple comments that I don't have the answers to. I think Foam can speak to the level of noise that they think is going to be created by their use. That was a request that I get called out, so these guys can answer that. There was a request to move the sidewalk 5 feet off the entry drive, which we are fine doing. So that's,
Okay.
I think everything else is somewhat explained in the application and the staff notes.
And we received an updated plan today that has the sidewalk placed 5 feet back. And I'm trying to think of what other changes were made to the plan. I believe it was that.
That was it.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to talk, you want to hear it all about noise or potential noise?
I guess we will.
So this is contemplated to be a pub and a brewery.
No.
not a pub, and we're not requesting a pub use at this time. We're requesting use as a brewery.
So
So the
purely,
proposed, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so purely a brewery. There's not gonna be customer visits for samplings and things such as
It's not
that.
gonna be a bar. I mean, I think
Well,
these-
there's, samples are different than a bar. I'm not saying it's a bar.
Well, is it retail, is there gonna be
Not
retail
at this point.
sales?
Not
Well-
at least for 2 years.
Will there be public access?
Not at the start.
So.
Can you just state
wouldn't-
your name too, please?
My name is Todd Hare.
Okay.
So you wouldn't be doing tours with a nip on the side?
That's not the goal currently.
So it'd just be a
We just-
production facility?
Just small production.
So I guess,
And as far as the noise is typically just production in the sense of pumps is probably the loudest of noises.
So what's the water requirement and the wastewater necessity? And what do you, you're taking in water, are you taking in water, I assume, for your product? You're gonna use Vermont well water for, Hinesburg well water for your beer?
Correct.
And then the disposal of all the byproducts, what's gonna happen with that? The grains and the the liquids go into the into the lagoon and,
To certain side streaming that would occur, but.
I'm sorry?
As far as the byproduct,
Yeah,
yeah, municipality sewer,
the liquid byproduct.
as in,
Well, I mean, you got grains and all sorts of
oh
stuff.
yeah, that will be side streamed out to local cows. Currently, we have a brewery in Burlington waterfront where all the byproduct, organic matter, is side streamed and goes to local cattle.
so as far as noise, your intention is to operate with the garage doors closed,
Yes.
even in the summer? Okay. So I mean, it was brought up, I guess I do have a concern about using those garage doors. If you're afraid you can't have an island way down on the end so that you can use those garage doors for deliveries, then I really question the positioning of those parking spaces there, because those are not, I assume those are spaces for general use for the whole group of businesses here.
And can I just say that, like, if we have deliveries and so forth, like we said, that, you know, we would accommodate that to where we could, you know, rope that off to know that this
But
wouldn't be.
it's not necessarily your parking to rope off.
Well, I
Right.
think, I mean, the point is, it seems unfortunate. I mean, the deliveries are fairly intermittent. I mean, it's, you know, it's a great use of that space to sort of, for the most part, use it for parking, but then manage it during times that they're expecting a delivery. You know, I still think it's predominantly parking. It's just you're preserving the opportunity to get a truck in there from time to time when you need to.
So what happens if the restaurant has cars parked in there when a delivery comes
They're
in?
gonna have to schedule their deliveries at a different time.
We will coordinate, I'm John, by the way, we'll coordinate with the other local businesses that are right there.
So it had to be just scheduled deliveries. It's the only way to make it work.
Yes.
So I guess I would say that I did like the idea of having an island at the end, because it does kind of direct where the travel lane is versus where the parking is. I can see, you know, people coming out of there now just sort of cutting across those parking areas as they're leaving or coming or going. So I could see the benefit of having an additional island there just to kind of delineate parking and where the main travel is.
So you don't believe there will be enough room for trucks if you put the curb there?
No, I don't think the building back up. I mean, I guess the only thing I'd add is, you know, we have kind of gone about this sort of site development incrementally. Seems to have worked pretty well so far. You know, in my mind, this is another increment in terms of adding 2 more islands, the landscaping and the sidewalk. And I think it's not unlikely that at some point in the next few years, these guys will be back saying, hey, we want to build a little patio area out partially in front of the building, and, that might, by then they'll be resolved on what their sort of truck access really can or needs to be, and, that might be a good time to say, maybe it's time to do that last item. But, I mean, this is a pretty, it's a not insignificant cost to do even what we're proposing now, and to maintain that flexibility in front of the garage. Again, it's worked incrementally so far, and this is just another increment in my mind.
So I'm seeing plantings also in the, I guess, curbed areas or whatever, up near 116. To the right of, move your mouse to the right and then up. Where the parking is by the.
I can answer that. Those plantings were installed at the last.
Okay, so that's not
Oh,
part of this
you're
one.
talking about this one over here.
Yeah.
No, the new plantings, well, actually, Abby, do you want to point that out, or?
Yeah.
Because as I see it, it's here, here, and here.
That is correct, Mitch.
Okay.
In those 3 areas.
So, does this applicant have views on the water issue that has just come to our attention 10, 15, 20 minutes ago, and no one's had much time to think about it,
Do we have views?
that you care to share with us? and
Well, I
public?
think it's pretty clear that in accordance with your water allocation ordinance,
Which we don't have before us, and we're just hearing about for the first time, and I'm certainly not going to take any action on off somebody's iPhone.
well, it's your ordinance. I mean, I'm not-
Yeah, and I don't have access to it.
Can we pull it up?
And
Here, do you have
I
internet?
mean, actually, let me see if I have that.
Well, I mean, just, we have a board of 4, and I'm certainly not prepared to take any action tonight. So if I have to hold things up, I will. I'm not prepared to make any declarations about who has what rights to water.
I guess the question, so is there any way I'm not sure how I respond to that. Are you suggesting something?
I think what's going to happen, to my mind, what has to happen is we have to talk to counsel for the town about this situation that seems to have just developed overnight. Because I don't think, I as a board member, don't think I certainly don't have any knowledge now that will allow me to make an informed assessment of the situation. I haven't studied the regulations, the priorities. We just haven't had time to even have staff reflect on it, much less attorneys, and these are legal issues that could wind us up in court.
I guess
so.
what I'd suggest or ask, it'd be very unfortunate to sort of delay this, but would you consider, depending on how you're just making a decision, one way or the other, with a condition being that you have to confirm that the allocation is valid with the town attorney or whoever else you want to confirm it with.
If I may, they need to come back at the next meeting for conditional use.
Yeah,
I'm sorry?
They need to come back for the next meeting for a conditional use application for the sidewalk that happens to be
Right.
in the stream buffer. You could continue this to that particular time and then
it
listen
needs
to
to be
both
a
of them.
warned hearing.
That's a warned hearing, yes. You could continue that to that, and we can get you some more information on the warrant.
Well, without having heard really from Brett, except just kind of getting a sense of the issue, I think we're going to have to consult with counsel about this. I don't think.
You don't think we should just look at this as that we don't even know about the application? I mean, because we easily could have looked at these without even knowing about the allocation. I mean, I could go with
Well,
trying to take care of the issues that are here, and they can deal with the allocation.
I think as a theoretical matter, we could do that, Dennis. One way or the other, I think council has to be consulted. Maybe it's at the behest of the select board rather than us, or if neither of us wishes to take up that issue, we issue potentially conflicting decisions, issue permits that are competing for the same limited supply of water. One of these gentlemen is going to wind up in court appealing our decision. To my mind, it makes sense for us to get the view of council before we make decisions that are almost certain to be appealed by one of two parties. And I'm not saying talking to an attorney necessarily delays the process for 2 or 3 months. I'd like to get maybe there's a very quick answer to this, and maybe we could get a very quick answer in 2 weeks, but I think we should be getting an opinion of council about how to deal with these issues when we're dealing with a limited supply of water and we have competing applicants for the same supply.
So in the narrative, it talked about like first year, initially you're looking at like 1,000 barrels a year, if that's correct, and potentially up to 5,000 barrels. So is the water allocation that's currently been requested and presumably approved, does that cover the 5,000?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the maximum.
Yes.
There's a method in the allocations where you can get some allocation, which then you're using, and then reserve a certain amount of allocation. Certain fees that you can pay to actually reserve a certain portion of it. And I believe at this point they have acquired some that they're going to use now and are reserving others for later on.
So I wasn't here for the informal conversation that happened before the meeting started, but it sounds like the select board has issued the applicant preliminary allocation.
Mhm.
So with that in mind, I think I just want to second Larry's idea that you should be able to make a decision conditional upon the water being available. You know, I think if we can go over and get all of the other issues out of the way, and then maybe just that one last water issue that you're not completely comfortable making a definitive answer on tonight, if that could be conditional, I would say it's kind of a solid way to move forward on this.
I guess I'd like to bring up on page 3, number 4, about the warrant hearing. I don't think we should make any definite answers until to that hearing, if that's a requirement.
On page 3 of the...
Under staff comments,
Relative to the stream buffer.
correct.
So you're saying you'd like to continue it?
If that's a requirement, then I think we have to, yes.
Yeah, and I think Mitch mentioned before that the only part that wasn't warned for tonight was the fact that
There's a bit of sidewalk that happens to
the
be in.
sidewalk is
yeah.
in the stream buffer, and therefore that piece of it requires conditional use.
Well, I'm not prepared to support any action tonight, so nothing will happen tonight, given that we only have 4 board members. So at a minimum, I would want to continue this. But I want to hear from Brett, but I'm not sure we can hear from Brett, because I'm not sure we have a quorum, and I think,
I can talk to this application.
I'm sorry?
I'll talk to this application.
Not as a board if we don't have a quorum.
I mean, as a public,
Yes, I'm
you're
public.
speaking from the public when public comments
Yeah,
are opened up, I guess,
I think that certainly could happen. But maybe first we had to determine whether we have a board for Brett's application. or
You're
quorum.
saying to your application or our application?
To your application.
All right,
So I
so
think
you,
it's the public, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he definitely can speak.
yeah, I think that's Brett's intention, is to speak on
About
the
this
cheese,
application.
the cheese plant
before us now.
application. We do have a
Okay.
quorum.
Okay, yeah, no, that, sure.
So before I open it up to the public, you you want to talk through the rest of these issues, or do you want to just continue it?
I'd like to hear from Brett tonight. I'd certainly like to hear more tonight, because all of this is brand new to me, as I suspect it's brand new to everybody. So I'd like to get as much context before we leave tonight as we can.
All right, well, I'll open it up to the public.
This is my form.
Sounds like it.
You're up, Brett.
Yeah, I would encourage the board to continue the application for a number of reasons. One of them, yes, Larry did read a section of the water allocation ordinance that appears to unfairly, basically, unfairly give advantages to commercial projects that only require site plans. And so it is a, one or two sentences that were read, and on face value of what he read, it appears that, yes, they may have the upper hand, but without actually going through the entire ordinance, I think it's premature to make any decisions based upon that one or two sentences. I also like to bring to light, and I'm sure the board is aware of this, is that there are certain legal, certain lawsuits pending against the sewer and thus water allocations with certain applicants. So it is in my opinion that I'm not really sure that the select board had the legal authority to grant any water allocations to any projects based upon the current pending lawsuits that are ongoing. So I think until the board here can get opinion from town council, and I would request that I am able to basically potentially submit a legal opinion as well, that I think it should be all straightened out before any decisions are made this evening.
Were you at last night's meeting?
No, I was not.
Did you anticipate that this issue would be before the select board?
No, I did not.
When did you hear about it?
Their application, or
Well, the water issue as it relates
about
to,
5 seconds before you did.
and how did that come about?
Well, Mitch just brought it up that basically the select board awarded 1,600 gallons to the cheese plant project, and it was always my understanding that, and as Larry alluded to, they have an allocation already. They had a large bulk allocation of water and sewer, but really sewer, and I would assume that the water automatically went along with it.
Both, I think it's both.
That from the initial, back when they redeveloped the property, there was a large allocation set aside to encourage the redevelopment of the property, or either that it was a leftover allocation from this approvals.
It's actually a combination of both. There was a leftover allocation that they have,
Yep.
and then there is an additional application that was awarded. We're only talking water because there is,
There's enough.
there's sufficient sewer. That's why we're not really mentioning that.
But I was not aware that, the applicant was, had an application submitted to the select board requesting additional capacity.
All right, anybody else?
Yeah, I was just curious if...
State your name, please.
Oh, Dan Jacobs, Hinesburg, Vermont. Just curious if Phone plans on doing a pale ale or a double IPA. Really like pale ales.
You have anything important to talk about?
No.
The other thing is, you'll have to go to Burlington to try it, though.
Yeah.
Is there a brewer in Vermont that doesn't have an IPA or a double IPA anymore?
Well, you never know. Changing gears.
I don't buy them, but that's all you can get.
Anybody else?
We're a wide variety of beers, so I'm sure if you drink any sort of beer, we'll try for something for
Great. Music to my ears.
Go ahead.
I don't know if I'm public or the applicant still, but I guess, it seems clear this water issue won't get resolved tonight, but to the extent you can deal with sort of any of the other issues that are pending, this would be helpful to know where we stand. If you know those other issues, to the extent we can hear about them, it would be helpful.
I think we should go through the other issues. I think things. Yep. I'm fine with that.
Dennis, I think somebody's raising his hand in the corner.
Hey, Wayne, VCAM in Hinesburg. I've heard about the water issue in various ways, and it always seems to be amorphous, and I don't know if,
Can you try and keep your voice up?
I don't know if one of the solutions is to look at, and I don't know, maybe this is in foams, or any development for that matter, are there other ways to kind of switch how the allocation works, or switch what your discharge rate is, so that some of that water, instead of going into the straight sewer system, can be put into like basically a man-made wetland, that some of that wastewater doesn't need to go into the...
Actually, it's not a matter of wastewater, it's just simply getting potable water to both of these. And there's an actual ordinance that spells out how all these different procedures are supposed to be made.
The allocation is
Right.
based on some formula.
A certain process, and it is spelled out in the ordinance, which actually is on the town website.
John, again, we have read that. All of us have read that. We've talked to a few other folks that have read it, and we tried to ask as many questions about that before we put in this application to fully understand it.
Mhm.
So to let that be known, that we have been trying to be diligent to understand it as best as possible and do it the right way. So we're not trying to skirt around anything.
Right.
I mean, you brought this application to the select board, of course, right?
Yeah.
And the select board, understanding the ordinance, followed the procedures, or I would imagine that they would have.
Mhm.
And as I said before, it's my understanding, I'm not an expert at that ordinance this time, so my apologies on that. But it's my understanding that, Larry Williams mentioned, happens to be the case where if you are applying for a site plan, and especially for something that has a site plan approval already, that they can request allocation where you have to go through at least sketch plan and get a sketch plan approval for subdivision beforehand. What I will do beforehand, before the next meeting, is I will get the ordinance to the board, copies of that, although it is on the town website, and write an opinion on this. But also, I'll also talk to, I'll also see as far as getting counsel and opinions and such on that as well.
Does everybody else still want to continue, or? I'm only one board member, I'm fine to keep going. but
I'm fine to
if
go
you
through the
guys-
bullet points, just to review.
Okay.
No, I'm happy to go ahead with, cover as much ground tonight as we can.
Okay. If the select board did what they were supposed to do, I mean, my opinion, I don't see why we have to continue, but we can go.
Okay, well,
only
I'm
one
not,
board
I'm
member,
not,
so-
I'm not gonna approve anything tonight, so
All right,
I
so
hate
we'll go
to-
through the issues that are at hand right now, and there was
So I
something
guess
on
we
the
can
front.
talk about official map, right? That was the parking island and the proposed sidewalk, so I guess that's pretty clear. They don't want the island. I'm still puzzling over it, whether or not, literally because you put an island there, you couldn't back a truck up. And in general, I struggle with how that's all gonna work. Since it's shared parking.
I think the resistance to putting in an island is the expense of the curb would make a barricade precluding them from using those doors. If they have an open, flat parking area now, they can try to use them. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. They're gonna work with the other tenants in the building to schedule deliveries at a time that works, and, I think through their business, if they find out they can't use those doors, then they won't use them, but they want the option to use them if they can make it work.
Now, the parking's there today, right?
Yes.
People use that. Have you had any issues with
No, I mean, I think that the parking lot is pretty well utilized. I mean, when Smoke and Cure is at full throttle and the restaurant's open, it's, pretty full, but it also has capacity and.
Now you have overflow parking across the street too, right? Or is that,
Well,
is that used?
You mean across the ditch?
Yeah,
Yes.
and that's fully utilized today, or?
Not as much, but, people will have to walk a little more. I mean, it's there,
Right.
they like to park, as close as.
That's what it's for though, for
Yes.
overflow
It's there
parking?
for overflow, yes.
Okay.
The reason.
Well, maybe there would be something else you could do, think about to break that up, maybe not a full-blown island or just something. If that. Now, on the front page, proposed site improvements. Displace a curb and one tree in an existing landscaped area adjacent to the main building. So the rest of these, I guess I'm a
That's
little
over here.
confused. Is this already done, or is this what needs to be done now?
The curb's not in.
Right.
But the rest of
this
them we
tree.
need to
this
still
tree.
do, right?
If you mentioned.
Additional
I can point
proposed
to what exactly needs to be done. So,
add plantings.
Yep. The proposal tonight is add a curb to this island,
Okay,
add a tree to this island.
so that's what number 2 is then.
Yep.
Okay,
Put a curb around this area that's currently parking spaces. So add an island here with 2 trees and 4 shrubs.
It's number 1.
okay.
And add the sidewalk from 116 back to where the current crosswalk is.
And that's the one you're gonna have to come in for a conditional, okay?
And add plantings to the south side of the sidewalk.
Okay,
And we didn't really want to do that, just so you know. We didn't really want to do that sidewalk because we thought it worked well the way it is, but we knew that was something the town wanted, and so we,
Everything else is
Put it in there.
existing.
okay.
but if you gave us a choice, we'd say we'd rather not do it.
Okay. So that sidewalk ends at where you walk across to go to the parking?
Yeah, there's a crosswalk that essentially takes you from that gravel parking lot, which is on the other side of the ditch,
Yep,
primarily for the Smoke and Cure employees.
okay.
There's a crosswalk there that takes you to the sidewalk in front of Smoke and Cure.
Mm-hmm.
And this sidewalk, proposed sidewalk, takes you from 116 to that crosswalk. That makes sense?
There's a little.
I'd have to look back at why.
Yeah.
Yeah, essentially to the bridge. Yeah.
Right, but there's a little bridge down there at the extra park.
In the official town map, they look at this as a potential future town road. And the idea is to try to create landscaping and curbing that would be as per a town road in that type of development.
We don't like that idea. We think that really bad for the site, but we're accommodating it to the extent we can.
Okay.
And the purpose of clustering the plantings kind of down at that end, has it got something to do with the neighboring property? Or,
No, that's where we're losing the most plantings. So there are some trees that have to go to make room for the sidewalk. So we're clustering trees where there used to be trees.
okay.
Okay.
So I guess we talked about the parking spaces. At this point, it's just production, just employees.
Mhm.
I guess there's a note number 6 under staff comments about maximum traffic trips. The amount has not been provided for the proposed use.
6 PM peak hour trips?
Well, you talked about, you gave a number for the peak of AM peak PM.
I didn't give a Total day?
total day.
Okay, I'll have to get you that.
So you'll provide that at the next meeting?
Sure.
All right, do the other board members have any other?
So I just would ask that, does that also include deliveries and such, or is that, you're talking about just employee trips? Because I assume it's supposed to also include deliveries and everything else.
Yeah, the daily total will include deliveries.
Okay.
Right. What they provided was the max on each end. It's not the total, which could be that
Provided
added.
a peak hour.
Yeah, that's, yeah, a peak hour on, right.
Mhm.
If nobody has anything else, I'll open it up to the public one more time.
Deafening silence, I would move to continue.
Got one.
Did I miss that?
Well, actually, I meant to continue on Hinesburg.
Yeah.
Just to say that it's great to see another business wanting to come to town. But just as a citizen, as a member, I'm on the Economic Development Committee, so I think it's great. So that was just kind of random comment.
All right, thank you.
Got a quick one too.
Yeah.
Dale Warrenhoff, I'm on the Affordable Housing Committee, so I was here for Brett's application, and just a general comment. You know, I'm interested in the housing aspect, but I like beer too, so I have nothing against anybody in the room here. But it just seems, just hearing this whole conversation, it does seem a little unusual that the housing project could go through so many iterations over a course of many years and actually had to come back and downsize it specifically because of the water allocation, and have the select board be able to just, well, not just, but, you know, to allocate separately on their own. And that's nothing against anybody here. I'm sure everything's all legal and above board. It's just, my point is that maybe somehow the board should be talking to each other more, or with zoning or something, that this shouldn't have been a surprise. I mean, this should have been something that shouldn't have been just popped up out of the blue, you know.
Well, there were some communications that there was other possibilities that were provided
Yeah.
to the applicant, and yeah,
It
it'd be
just leaves it just looks odd, I guess.
Yeah.
It just seems odd, but having said that, I'm all for everybody getting their way, and hopefully you guys can all come to an agreement and get everything worked out, because that, you know, the redevelopment of the Saputo plant's been a great thing, and, you know, I hope you guys get in here, so good luck to you.
All right,
So Dennis, I would make a motion, we continue this application for Catamount Malone to the next meeting.
Next 2 weeks.
yes.
we have plenty of room, right?
Hmm?
We have plenty of room.
Yes,
So I'm not sure it'd be 2 weeks, but it would be the first Tuesday in February.
yes.
Which is the same meeting we're going to hear.
Yeah, conditional use
So-
on that.
Okay,
So I would second that.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
So I guess we
So we
basically
don't have a
procedure
quorum
question.
on this one.
Can this be continued to the next meeting?
There is one sign application that I was going to schedule on that, but I don't think that should take much
I think Brad
time.
deserves
If it's a
priority
relatively
for
small
this.
sign, we can probably,
Yeah, it's big enough that it needs, well, actually, it's the type that the DRB needs to review,
yeah.
but other than that,
And I would invite Brett to submit additional legal submissions that he wishes to between now and then, in addition to anything that we might get from the town or town representatives or Catamount Malone representatives and so forth.
All right, I'll move to continue to,
Feb. 7th?
what's the date?
February 7th.
February 7th.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sorry, everybody. Coming out in this crappy, icy weather. Getting kinda yucky out there.
Merry-go-round goes around and around.
Is that a cane?
Actually, correction, it's 3 weeks. It's 3 weeks.
But it is February 7th.
But it is February 7th, yes.
All right, I'll move to other business.
All right.
Heading,
Let me just pull one thing up.
Got a sketch plan approval. Vote on.
Me? I've had that. Yeah, for about 4 months with a ruptured disc, untreated.
All right, there is an extension request for Ted and Carol Blumhart.
is this the first extension request?
This is a second extension request. The application was, a sketch plan was approved for this two-lot subdivision on February 2nd, 2016. It was extended on July 5th. It's going to expire on February 2nd of this year. And the proposed extension for 6 months would be till August 2nd of 2017. This is one of those 10-acre...
Yeah, but I think,
When does it have to be final, the final application be? It's like,
2018.
March 30th, 2018.
okay. We've typically been extending those to let people.
We just want the applicant to know that more than likely we won't extend it again, though. That's
hope
been our
that's-
policy lately, is not do a third
We
extension.
haven't turned down any of these on these particular ones. though.
No, but
And did they specifically request 6 months, or?
Yes. Basically, they were offered 6 months if they were offered the opportunity that they could get a 6-month extension.
okay.
And we're happy to do that for...
Well, I don't
Yes,
think
sir.
Dennis, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think we've given anybody a drop dead date that's before March of 2018. Maybe we ought to start thinking about doing that. But if we do, we probably ought to talk about it.
Well, I think we tried to tell them that you're getting awful close, you have to have a final subdivision approval by that date. I mean,
And it's still 14 months off.
yeah. As long as they don't start August and start,
Yeah, I mean, these would be pretty uncomplicated
if I'm not
things to the
mistaken-
extent they go forward.
If I'm not mistaken, there's, I believe, 5 of them that are left. And I think you'll probably hear all 5 of them in March of 2018,
yeah.
probably, or
I think
probably
we've extended
some-
every one of them, I believe.
Yeah. It probably is, it's possible some of these will drop out. But it's a very good point. You may want to try to encourage this sooner rather than later.
So does the review have to start by March 18th? March, whatever it is, 2018?
No, you have to have final approval by then.
Yeah,
Okay.
the regs
So
say fine.
they better not come in.
So I don't know if
before.
you have the 45 days.
Okay,
in there,
so,
too, or-
okay.
I'm fine
Maybe
with
this
6
would be
months.
this would be a good time to say no further extensions, because that's going to take us to July.
That will take you to,
July of, and then,
well,
So it's
August
of
2nd.
2017, right?
Right, so they would have to be in here, say, the second meeting in July, and at least get to that process. And,
I would just say, I would just let them know that this is probably the last extension, in my vote.
no, I'm fine with that, just starting to draw the line now.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so I'll make a motion to approve Ted and Carol
And
Blumhart's.
And we can put that in the minutes, can't we?
Yes,
Just so that
you can put that
they're
on
on
notice.
notice.
6 months extension request.
Yes, with the...
Do I have to say the date, August, till August 2nd, or? I'll say it.
Yeah. And you could also say that, unless, I mean, put into the motion as well, that the applicant this is going to be the last extension.
Absent extraordinary circumstances, the
Yes.
board will not entertain any further applications for adjournments of the final application.
Very well said.
Well said. I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and the next thing on the agenda is,
Sherry and Brian Hanlon?
Yep.
Did you do the decision, Mitch?
yes.
Well, I had no issues with it. Excellent.
Look good to me.
Look good.
Yeah. I mean, Alex gave it a nice review.
So this was not one of those 10 acre, because it was actually like a 12 or something?
This is a 12 acre.
12.1, or something like that, right?
All right, do we have a quorum for this? For the decision?
I
I know I was here.
Oh.
know there
You weren't
were,
here, but you can still vote.
Okay, I mean, I did,
Only if he has reviewed the,
I reviewed this.
in the world, he's supposed to have looked at the video.
Did you look at the video?
I did not.
So we can table
Probably
this.
table it until next week,
Okay.
next meeting. I should say.
okay. Yeah, you should be okay.
And we're at the same part on the record review. We wanted to wait till we had more board
Yeah,
members.
yeah.
Yeah.
Caught between a rock and a
I
hard
think we'll
place.
table that again till,
Short rock and short place.
I'll just put in,
put an extension on that one.
and if I can go just, I do have a, for the next meeting, in addition to the conditional use, and I guess the continuance here, as well as Brett's continuances, there is a standalone sign application that I have for Jason Barnard. His survey company has taken over the building that's, actually it's across the street and a few over. They bought, it used to be a healing arts place.
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
And basically the entire thing was a healing arts place. It was going from an
Apartment
office
upstairs, right?
with an apartment upstairs, so.
I lived there
had
once.
did you really?
Yeah.
So you know it well.
Yep.
Interesting basement, I had a chance to see that,
Yeah.
with that big cistern that's down there. But anyway, I issued a change of use, basically it's an office to an office. They had an approved site plan, have the authority to issue that type of use, being that it's the same type of thing. And now that they're in there, they want to have a sign, and it's a freestanding sign. There may have been one in the past, but it was removed, so they're basically putting up a new one, and that is what's the additional thing on the agenda for,
It probably won't take too much
Okay.
time.
would you want me to schedule that first?
Yes.
Get it done, yeah.
Sure.
I would.
You just gotta make sure it meets height. and
Is it lighted or not lighted?
Distance from the road. and-
I think there is some illumination onto it.
That always adds a couple extra minutes of discussion.
I would just ask, why could you not approve that if it meets height and distance from the road? And
Because it's a freestanding sign, I don't have the authority, as zoning administrator.
Some of them require actually
Okay.
board approval. We have improved on that in the last 5 years to give the zoning administrator much more independent authority outside the board,
Mhm.
but some still have to come before us.
And this is one of those that has to come to you. Actually, regardless of size, a freestanding, a wall-mounted sign is as long as it's under 16 square feet, is a zoning administrator decision.
Okay.
Where a freestanding sign, so that has to come to you. I'll put that first on the agenda for next ones, this way it could be in and out, and then we'll get back into water.
Okay. I move to adjourn.
So Mitch, I'd really like to,
We off the
I
air?
know stuff's on the website, but I